Welcome back everyone to our shop. I hope you enjoyed the first part of this video on making a floating frame. So now we're going to take you through the process of finishing. I'm hoping this video is going to be a lot shorter than the last one. We'll try to adhere to that if at all possible. So this is what the frames look like when they're finished. There's the small one, about 16 by 20. And the larger one is, I believe, 20 by 28, somewhere in there. So, in my opinion, I think they look kind of like a work of art in themselves. But that's just my opinion. Now at this point, I have taken some 80 grit sandpaper. I've roughly sanded the back side, gotten rid of any remnants of glue. I also filled the nail holes with wood filler, and I have lightly sanded those surfaces here with 120 grit sandpaper. Now in the first video, I talked about these edges on the plywood, on the exposed edges where you have end grain, and the fact that it can be difficult to deal with. I mentioned you could edge band it. I haven't done that. I'm going to be painting them, at least this top surface. If you want a natural finish, you'd have to put a natural wood edge banding on that, which I mentioned in the other video. So what we're going to do is we're going to attempt to fill this end grain so that when we paint it, it doesn't show through. Now there's probably a number of different ways of doing this, but I'm going to use a method that I think is easy and involves product that you have in your shop, I'm sure. So what I'm using here today is simply Elmer's wood filler. You could use any brand. This is what I have. And the idea is we're going to mix this wood filler with regular water, and then we're going to apply it to the surface. Now we're diluting it so that the wood filler will penetrate into the end grain a little bit. The water also has the effect of causing the grain to stand up, any little wood fibers. That's what we want. So after the wood filler, after the water dries, evaporates, then we can sand that back down. So I'm going to zoom the camera in and we will get to it. Okay, so I've got my wood filler mixed up here. It's about 2 parts wood filler to 1 part water. It looks a little bit like paint. So the idea is I'm just going to apply it to the surface, and I just got a small brush here. You could actually do it with your finger if you wanted to, but we're just going to apply it like paint to the surface. And the idea is it is quite wet, it is quite runny. We just want this to absorb into the surface. So now you will notice on this section that I'm actually using my finger. I mixed up the second batch of wood filler quite a bit thicker, as I wasn't so interested in it absorbing into the fibers, but that it was covering the cracks and blemishes in the surface. So that's just something you might want to make note of. Okay, so at this stage I have finished applying the wood filler to the surfaces, and now we've got a nice smoothly sanded finish. And we're hoping that the end grain will not absorb our paint or our finish. Now we have to paint, I should also mention that I have sanded these edges to 180 on this piece and 120 on this one. I'll explain that in a minute. I have to paint the inside of this and the back flat black, the same as this frame. Inside this edge here and on the back flat black. I'm going to paint the small one white on all surfaces, this surface and the top edge. This one I'm going to finish natural on here, and then I'm going to put a copper color finish on the top edge. Now if I paint it black to start with, then when I paint it white, especially for this one is the main concern, I have to mask off everything inside of here, and I don't want to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint these surfaces white and basically finish painting them. Then I'll mask them off and paint the rest of it flat black. That way if I get a little bit of black paint inside on these edges, I can just touch it up with a brush. On this one, since I'm going to be finishing this natural, the first thing I'm going to do is spray the top surface, and mainly I don't want black paint into this wood filler. So I'm going to paint the top surface in this edge with my lacquer, one coat, just to protect it. Then I'll paint the inside and the back black, and then I will remove any black paint with a, well, I should say before I paint, I will be masking this off. But any paint that gets through the masking, I will wipe off the lacquer, or I will just lightly sand. Hey everyone, so it's been a couple of days. It took a little longer to paint than I thought it was going to. So I have completely finished the smaller frame. Painted the inside flat black as well as the back. The outside is just gloss white. Took 3 coats of paint, 2 or 3. I'm using a synthetic paint. I guess it's kind of designed for the automotive industry, I'm not sure, but it dries very quickly. You can actually do 2 coats almost at the same time. So it's looking really good. You can still see the grain of the wood, which is fine. Even on the top, you can tell it's wood, but you can't really tell it's plywood. That's the idea. So I'm happy with the way that one turned out. On the larger one, same thing, painted the entire thing flat black. I still have yet to finish the outside. I had 1 coat of Varathane on that. So I got 1 coat of Varathane on that. I have to put at least probably 1 or 2 more, and then I'm going to paint the rim. So I'm going to get at that right away, and got a surprise for the top edge here to try and match the picture I'm going to put with it. So at this stage, I have varnished the edges, the sides, 2 coats. And now I'm going to apply the copper colored paint. It's just ordinary acrylic paint with a copper color. And the idea is I'm applying it on the surface, and I want it to have it a bit rough. I want it to be textured, so it looks a little bit like gilding. We'll call it fake gilding, for lack of better words. So I'm just going to apply this straight out of the bottle. Beautiful color. Oh, it's just gorgeous. Hey everyone, this brings to conclusion this 2-part series on building floating frames. I hope you've enjoyed them, and I hope you've learned something. The main point to remember is, because we're using plywood, 2 factors: it's easy to work with, but you have to deal with the edge. And once you learn to deal with that edge that's facing outwards, there's really no limit to what you can do with these. And of course, we used our famous ACE braces to make things a lot simpler. So behind me, after this project, I ended up with 4 frames finally. One that's completely black with rounded edges. The one above, we painted white on the front, and it's a teal color on the side. Just shows you can use any colors that you want. There's really no limit. And then on this side, we've kind of imitated gilding. The sides are a natural finish, but the fronts, here I put an acrylic gold metallic paint, and here a copper colored paint. And as you saw in my video, I put it on in such a way as it kind of impersonates or gives you the impression of being gilded. And I think it really highlights the copper color in the picture. The gold brings out some of the yellow in the moon and in the snow. So really there is no limit. So thank you very much for watching. We hope to produce more of this content in the future. If you like this content, please hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and we appreciate your support. This is Passion for Life Gallery.